Good afternoon. Thank you for watching our live briefing for Friday, May 22nd. Today I'll provide a brief update on the COVID situation. Then Lori Yant from the clinic will provide some details about clinic services. Deborah Jacobson will speak to you about some of the programs and services that are restarting next week. Scott Jonte has a dining update. Then we have a Fun Friday segment, which I think you'll really enjoy. And then David Curtis will close us out with a pastoral care segment today. A quick look at the COVID data. Nationally, we've had about 1,551,000 cases and 93,000 deaths so far from the COVID pandemic. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, we've tested 223,433 people to date. The positivity rate for the state of Virginia, Commonwealth of Virginia, is 14.7, trending down. It was at its high almost exactly a month ago, so it was at 22% a month ago, and now it's at 14.7, trending down, but just slightly. Henrico sits at 11.2% with a slight trend downward. Chesterfield County is at 14.1% with a slight upward trend over the last 2 weeks. Richmond sits at 21.4%, trending down over the last 7 days, but still up slightly from where it was 2 weeks ago. And then Hanover is sitting at 8.4% and has been flat for a couple of weeks. So the rates aren't really changing there. In Virginia, we have about 35,000 cases of COVID with 813 new from yesterday. So far, about 4,150 people have been hospitalized. Currently, there are 1,759 people in the hospital. That's a decrease of 32 of the people in the hospital. Of the people in the hospital, 366 are in the ICU. 207 of them are requiring ventilator support. We've had 1,136 deaths, and nearly 5,000 people have now recovered. In terms of outbreaks, there have been, in long-term care facilities around Virginia, there have been 188 outbreaks so far. An outbreak is when there are 2 cases or more in a facility and there is spread within the community between residents. Been 188 facilities that have had that, accounting for 4,331 cases and 667 deaths. If you look at it more locally, we've had 13 outbreaks in Henrico, 9 in Chesterfield, 5 in Hanover, and 3 in the city of Richmond. Now, as a reminder about the Memorial Day weekend and then the Memorial Day holiday, on Memorial Day, we will have a special Memorial Day service program on TV 970 at 11 a.m. The program has been developed and put together by residents. We certainly hope and encourage you to tune in. On Monday, there will be no 3 p.m. briefing, and there will also be no grocery delivery from your family members at Azalea or Publix on Monday. Yesterday, I shared a lot of information. Our hope is that the document that we distributed yesterday afternoon helps clarify what we're doing in steps 1 and steps 2. Please refer to the memo if you have questions. If you can't get clarity, call Resident Services and they'll help you. We'll be providing more information today and all of next week about the programs and services that are restarting. And as we get into this, we'll start talking about the next steps as well. Today, Deborah Jacobson and Lori Yant will be sharing information specific to the programs that start on Tuesday. Many of you have asked about mandatory masking for residents, asked how will we be monitoring it, how will we be policing it? The answer is simply that we will be correcting and helping residents when we see problems. And residents You all need to understand that as we restart programs and services, you'll not be allowed to participate in programs and services if you're not wearing a mask. It is going to be a requirement when we're together. Some of you have asked, what is the consequence for someone who's not wearing a mask? The short answer is you won't be allowed to participate in our programs and services as we restart them. And the other reality is, for us to gain confidence that we can open more services and programs and ultimately open the community, we need to have confidence that we can comply by these safety procedures. That's just the way it's going to need to be done. So get used to it. We're all going to have to get used to it. And if you have problems with masks, limit your time as much as you can from being around others so that you're not forced to wear one. Some of you have asked for more information about social distancing now that we're beginning to restart some of our programs. Please limit your time together in public areas. They are open and you can come down and you can be in public areas, but limit your time there. You're safer at home. Anytime you are around other people, wear your mask and maintain 6 feet of distance between each other. Between now and Tuesday, we will be placing signage in our lounges and in the roof terrace and in other places where residents can gather. For now, and just during these first steps, as the governor gives us more clearance, we'll move towards bigger things. But for now, outdoor groups should be limited to 10 or less, and indoor groups really based on space, no more than 6. The Commons, Cochrane Commons, Rice Assembly, Jacqueline Room, they are closed. So we're not going to have groups in those larger spaces. Rice, we're preparing it for a different purpose on an interim basis. We're using the Jacqueline Room for storage right now for some of the dining functions. And Cochrane Commons, we need to keep it closed because we just don't have the capacity to use it for groups yet. So let me say that one more time. There will be signage in lounges, in the tower, and in the courtyard, and other spaces where you can get together small groups. We'll put up the numbers of how many people. Outdoor, keep your numbers to 10. Indoor, 6 or less. When you do get together, keep your distance from each other. It's really important, even in small groups. Lastly, when you're outdoors and you're walking, please remember the areas on campus where there's not a sidewalk. We ask that you, if you need to walk in the road, walk facing traffic. That way you can see the car coming and the car can see you better. We've had a couple of situations where people are walking in the road with the traffic at their back and they don't appear to hear the car behind them. So move over, get on the side of the road where you're walking towards the traffic, and that will be, it's just safer for everyone. Again, I want to remind you that on Memorial Day, we're going to have a special Memorial Day service on TV 970. It was put together by residents, and I hope you'll tune in at 11 a.m. And then again on Monday. No live briefing Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. We'll be back on Tuesday with a live briefing, and next week we'll be talking about more of the programs and services that'll be reopening in step 2, which is June 1st. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to turn it over to Lori Yount. She's going to talk to you about clinic services that'll be restarting. Hang on a second. Let me come down first.
Good afternoon. Most of you may know that the clinic began restarting their services on April 21st. And little by little, our practitioners have returned to the clinic. And as of May 26th, all our practitioners will be back in the clinic and resume their normal hours. You should start to see the hours and their schedules very soon in the tails. So one more return to something we're used to as being normal. But I just want to make it very clear that during Westminster Canterbury's step 1, the current operations in the clinic aren't going to change from what they are currently. That means there are no walk-ins. If you have a question or concern, call the clinic at extension 6231. If you're in need of services such as wound care or regular injections or medications, please call for an appointment time in the morning. And by medications, I mean medication administration. We have some residents who come get eye drops, that sort of thing. So call for an appointment time in the morning before noon so we know what time to expect you. This is much appreciated as we have an additional nurse during the morning hours as well. For residents that do have appointments to see a practitioner, the clinic staff will call you to let you know when to actually come down to the clinic to be seen. This will allow us to reduce the resident wait time, and it prevents crowding of the waiting room, and the social distancing guidelines also continue, as John just spoke about. The pharmacy is also going to remain closed to residents coming down for pickup. At this time, their operations are continuing as they have been, and for now there is not a timeline for when that will change. And when we're speaking of social distancing, if we call someone to come to the clinic, or if you're in the clinic area, please don't lean through the window at the reception area and that sort of thing, because that does eliminate the social distancing that we're trying to maintain for everybody's health and well-being. So thank you so much for thinking of us during these times. It's important. We ask please call to have your questions answered anytime. If you would like an appointment, call as well. And we thank you very much for following these important steps, and we look forward to seeing you. And next up is Deborah. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I want to give you a few updates from some information that John shared with you yesterday. Salon services, the Main Street Salon, including the barbershop and the Avalon Salon, will be opening on Tuesday. They will have limited services. All appointments will be made by calling 6281. There will be no walk-ins at this time. All appointments for next week have been scheduled. Please be patient as you try to schedule your appointment beyond next week. The salon this morning had received over 50 messages, so it's going to take us some time to get everybody in, but we're working on it and look forward to seeing you in the salon. The art studio. Beginning Tuesday, the art studio and the woodworking shop will be open for limited hours. Sarah Abernathy will be available to monitor the spaces and answer your questions. Art and pottery studios will be open on Monday and Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. A total of 6 people will be allowed in the art studio tables and in the loom area. 2 residents will be allowed in the pottery room. The woodworking shop will be open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 11 and 1 to 3. Only 2 people are allowed at one time. The residents will schedule these work times on a monitored list that has been organized by Neil Nielsen. And Mr. Nelson, we want to thank you for that. Social distancing must be observed, masks must be worn, and there will be hand sanitizer to use upon entering each of the spaces. Disinfectant wipes will be available, and each artist must wipe down chairs and tables at the end of their session. Call Sarah at 6268 if you have any questions, and written details will be in the details. This one's a heads up. On June the 1st, the fitness and aquatic centers will open up by appointment only. The phone lines for making these appointments will open on Tuesday, May the 26th. Appointments will be 30 minutes in length, and each resident is granted 2 appointments per week. Call Melissa Markey and let her know about your questions about this particular area, and she will be up here on Tuesday to give you more details. Now I'd just like to say the same thing that John said about the Memorial Day. celebrations, but to let you know that there's a surprise in your mailboxes that pertains to what's going on Memorial Day. As John mentioned, please tune in to on Memorial Day, Monday at 11 o'clock, TV 970, and for a special Memorial Day presentation that's been put together by your fellow residents. A big thank you to each and all residents that participated in making this such a memorable day. That's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Scott Jonte. Have a wonderful weekend.
Good afternoon, residents. Just want to briefly update you that we are planning a themed cookout menu for Memorial Day on Monday, May 25th. We had what is called a slight snafu with the menus. That's a technical term. But there is a menu that is being placed in your box, and the menu will include favorites like hamburgers or hot dogs and other cookout favorites. Please refer to this menu when ordering for Monday rather than the weekly promenade menu that you already have. Again, as a reminder, there's an updated menu for the Memorial Day lunch. Please refer to this menu when ordering. As a follow-up, each of your meals include a beverage. That beverage constitutes a bottle of water, milk, or the small Shasta sodas. The larger 20-ounce bottle sodas are not included in the meal and are an additional $1.50. If you would prefer one of those, please let the order server taker know that you would like one of those, and they'll be happy to accommodate you. For today's Fun Friday, we have brought the older children up from the Child Development Center to share a short presentation with you in honor of Memorial Day. The Child Development Center is currently open to employees only. Out of respect for their privacy, we won't disclose their names, but you at home can have fun enjoying your own fun and games trying to match the child with the employee. So now I will turn it over to them for their presentation.
A poem called On This Memorial Day by Emily Toma.
Remember those who served before.
Remember those who are no more.
Remember those who serve today.
Remember them as we eat and play.
Remember our protectors who are not home today.
Remember them all on Memorial Day.
You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. Should all acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag.
Thank you, everyone. My name is David Curtis. I'm one of the staff chaplains here at Westminster Canterbury. And a short programming note from Pastoral Care. This coming Sunday at 4 o'clock, we will show a sermon for every Sunday. And this week, Father Michael Reniger, the pastor of St. Mary's Catholic Church here in Richmond, Virginia, remembers showing a visitor around the sanctuary of his church. "I don't like your cross," the visitor said. "Why?" Father Michael responded. "Look at it," the visitor exclaimed. "From one angle, it looks like Jesus is dying, but from a different angle, you see there's a space between him and the cross. So tell me, Father, is Jesus dying or rising on that cross?" Tune in Sunday at 4 o'clock to hear the answer. And now, hear these words from Scripture from the very beginning of our sacred text, from Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The blessing that I offer you this day was written by Jan Richardson from her book entitled Circle of Grace, a book of blessings for the seasons. Blessed are you who bear the light in unbearable times, who testify to its endurance amid the unendurable, who bear witness to its persistence when everything seems in shadow and grief. Blessed are you in whom the light lives, in whom the brightness blazes, your heart a chapel, an altar where in the deepest night can be seen the fire that shines forth in you, an unaccountable faith, and stubborn hope, and love that illumines every broken thing it finds. I wish you a happy weekend. To those that will be celebrating the Sabbath at sundown, I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Please join us on Tuesday at 3 o'clock for our next update.